We are back, and it is time for the next part of my Sims 2 story that I wrote as a teen called Stardust. Hello and welcome. My name is Nicole, and when I was a young teenager in 2007, I wrote a Sims 2 story which I posted on the sims2.com. It is called Stardust, and it was heavily inspired by Twilight. If you haven't seen the first part to this story, I highly suggest you go and watch it. I'll leave a link down below in the description because you likely will not know what is happening in this next part. You guys really seem to like the first part of it, so I am here to share the second part of Stardust with you today. I don't really know what is happening in this next part of the story, but I am very excited to share it with you and just go along with it as we go. I put together the PowerPoint version of this story quite a while ago, so I don't really remember what's happened. It's not fresh in my mind. So we're gonna take it one page at a time and read it together. And before I forget, if you did watch part one and you need a brief refresher on what happened last time, basically we met our three main characters. We have met Anika, our main protagonist, Victor, our probably potential love interest, and Katrina, who is Victor's sister and now Anika's new best friend. Anika has just moved to this new town called Sunset Valley, and she is discovering some very strange things about her two new friends, which we are probably going to discover more about in this next chapter. Also, once again, before we get into the story, I just want to put another disclaimer that I am not shaming my younger self for writing this story. Again, I am quite proud of her for putting herself out there and putting in the time to make this story come to life. We're just enjoying some young teenage Nicole writing together. So let's get into the story. We start with our title page, Stardust Chapter 2, Walk With Me. First off, with this title image, I think I had just discovered how you could make Sims pose in the game. I don't remember if there was some kind of special item box you could download or if it was some debugging bool prop something enable cheat codes thing, but that's how I achieved this secretive titles here. So Stardust Chapter 2, Walk With Me. Take me by the hand, take me somewhere new. I don't know who you are, but I'm with you. I think any of us who have gone through a bit of an emo phase, or really anyone who grew up in the early 2000s, probably knows the lyrics to this song. As you can tell, I was a little bit angsty, and it is by the great Avril Lavigne. I did not give her credit for this quote, but you know, I guess it was edgy to quote this song. It was created on June 29th, 2007. The first part of this was created in September, and I honestly don't remember taking so long to come up with the next part, but it's very interesting. I do remember like constantly talking about the story with my friends at the time, and I remember one friend asked me to tell her the whole plotline of the story. And then after I told her it, I was like, you know, I don't feel like writing the story anymore because I already told it to you. And I remember her just saying like, no, you have to continue and tell the story, which I think is why this chapter 2 has come out so late in the year. I was probably too busy talking about my story instead of writing it, which is still true for me today. If I talk too much about my story and what happens in it, I'm not motivated to write it because I've already told it instead of written it down. But anyways, continuing on this first page, I wrote, look, it's out. What more do I have to say? You tell me. Now, go on, read it. Well, I have a super long nap. Wake me up and I'll throw a muffin at you. Sorry about that. Really, now go on and read it and I will take a nap. Oh, and if you care to know, if you did wake me up, I wouldn't throw a muffin at you. I'd throw a cookie. Why, you ask? Because I love muffins. And my dog. Okay, I'll shut up while you read. Enjoy. I think I had some kind of inside joke with my friends about throwing muffins at each other, but we definitely did not actually throw muffins at each other. It was just our silly random phase. P.S. Whoa, it's like 1 a.m. I really need a nap. Nicole. I don't think I needed a nap. I think I needed a full night's sleep. It was a Friday night, and Victor, Anika, and Katrina were hanging out. What they usually did on a Friday night. The three of them were talking happily until Victor stood up and grabbed his head in pain. Then Katrina stood up and looked sick. Anika stood up and watched them in fear. They were standing on a cliff where one lone willow tree stood. Anika heard Victor yelp in pain, and Katrina began to look sicker. What's wrong? Please tell me. I want to help. Anika screamed at them. She watched them some more. Her heart pounded in her chest as she watched her two best friends scream in pain. What's wrong? Please tell me, she yelled at them over and over again. But they couldn't speak. Anika looked at their beautiful faces and gasped in fear. I don't know if I've mentioned this yet, but I think something that's really interesting as I go through the parts of this story, because I wrote it over so many years, starting in grade 7, and I guess we'll find out later, but I think I finished this towards the end of high school. It's really interesting to see how my writing has evolved. I feel like already with this first page, I can see how things have kind of matured a little bit, which is very interesting to me. She looked at their teeth, and 2 pairs of fangs appeared. She looked at them in fear. They began to approach her, and Anika took a step back. She was nearing the edge of the cliff. Victor and Katrina began to hiss at her. Then Victor spoke, his voice ice cold. I'm so sorry, Anika, but now that you know our secret, you will have to die. Anika began to cry. No, please don't. I don't care if you guys are vampires. Please, I don't want to die. Please. They kept on walking closer to her, and Anika began to slip off the cliff's edge. Victor winked at her as she slowly began to fall off the cliff. Goodbye, Anika. Then Anika could hear someone call her, repeating her name over and over again. Anika, 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 Anika. Anika gasped as she sat upright in her bed, while Margot looked at her, her eyes full of worry. Anika, are you okay? Anika looked at her. You were screaming in your sleep, and I heard you and came to see what was wrong. I came and sat beside you and watched you for a while, but then you started to cry and say, please, I don't want to die. I started calling your name till you woke up. It was really scary. And a refresher, this is Margot, Anika's sister. Anika got out of her bed and began to pace the room. The dream, it was so odd. I was on a cliff with my friends Katrina and Victor, and they turned into vampires and tried to kill me. It seems so real, almost as if it already happened, like deja vu. Margot gave Anika a warm smile. Don't worry, sis. It was just a dream. It probably will never happen anyway. Yeah, you're right, Margot. It was all just a silly dream. Yep, so don't worry about it. Good night. And she jumped off of Anika's bed and left the room. Night, Margot. And she drifted back into a deep sleep. Another little behind the scenes tidbit here. I remember that whatever Margot is doing sitting on the bed was not something like the Sims could naturally do in the game. I remember I had these objects that you could turn invisible, and there's a cheat code in The Sims that allows you to move anything. In the buy mode, you could click on a Sim and move them onto things. So I remember I would get Margot to sit down somewhere, turn on the cheat code, put these invisible objects on the bed, and then I would grab Margot's Sim and put her on top of the object so it looked like she was sitting on the bed, but really she was sitting on these invisible objects. But of course, I think it causes some glitches why you see this kind of random black area here. But that's just a tidbit for you, for anyone who has played The Sims 2 and knows about these things. I hope that was fun. The school day came to close, and Anika ran in the hallways to catch up to Katrina and Victor. Victor, Katrina, wait up, she called after them, and they stopped as she ran towards them. A really random progression here, but okay, we have gone from sleeping to the end of a school day. Hey, Anika, Victor said. Hi, are you guys busy tonight? Katrina looked at Victor and then answered, I don't think so. Why? Well, I was wondering if you guys wanted to come over to my place tonight and watch a movie. They do love their movies, as we learned last time. Katrina gave Anika a bright smile. What time? How about 8 o'clock tonight? My place? Sounds great. See you then. And she left the school with Victor walking behind her. This scene is very interesting to me here. All the buildings that I built for this story were all just on a gigantic lot in The Sims 2. So everything you see is next to something else. So what you can see outside of the school here is actually the cliff from the dream sequence. Anika sat at her desk finishing her math homework when she heard the phone ring. She ran to the phone and picked it up. Hello, this is Anika speaking. Hi, Anika. Anika knew this voice right away. She recognized the smooth voice. It was her friend, Victor. Oh, hi, Victor. Nice little setup here. I do like how I managed to make this split screen, and clearly I made it the same blue as the website in the dividing line. Very good attention to detail. Hi, I was just calling to tell you that Katrina won't be coming tonight. She has a horrible fever, and she looks paler than she usually is. That's too bad, but you're still coming tonight, right? She could hear Victor laugh. I'll come as long as I'm wanted. Well, you're wanted, so you better come. Okay, I'll be there by 8. Yep, see you then. Bye. Okay, I don't know, this dialogue makes me feel a little bit odd. Moving on. Also, I get the sense that maybe Katrina isn't actually sick here. You know what I'm saying? The warm October sky grew dark as Anika waited for Victor to come. She sat quietly on the lumpy sofa. Her mother was going to be working late at the clinic that night, and Margot was playing happily in her room. Anika heard a light knock on the door and ran to answer it. She opened the door and saw Victor standing on her front porch. Anika gave him a welcoming smile. "Hey," she said. "Please come in." "Thanks," he said as he walked past her and sat down on the old sofa. "What movie are we going to watch tonight?" "I was thinking about Lord of the Rings, but that's really long and kind of boring. So I thought we would watch Pirates of the Caribbean. It's long, but action-packed." "Sounds good. Are we watching the first one or the second?" "I have both. You choose." He thought for a moment, then said, "Let's watch the first. I haven't seen that one in a long time." "Sure. I'll go get it." She got up from the couch and left the room. After a few minutes, she came back to find Margot, in her pajamas, sitting on the armchair talking to Victor. I think I made an error earlier when I said that we knew they liked movies. I think I was mixing up this chapter and the last chapter. I think last chapter we learned that Margot likes Mary-Kate and Ashley movies, but we're gonna find out eventually that Anika and Victor are also very into the cinema world to some extent. "Victor," Margot asked, "did Anika tell you about the dream she had, where you and your sister were vampires, and that you tried to kill Anika? Huh? Did she tell you?" "No, she didn't, but I'm sure she was going to." Margot looked up and saw Anika. "Hi sis, I was just telling Victor about the freaky dream you had." Margot was grinning from ear to ear. "I can see that, Margot." Margot, completely changing the subject, said, "What movie are you going to watch?" "Pirates of the Caribbean and the Curse of the Black Pearl." Now this is something I cringe at because I think I only mentioned the Pirates of the Caribbean because it was probably a movie I recently saw during this time. I think if Anika and Victor are actually into the cinema and film world, they would probably be watching some other different movies. But you know, I was working with the knowledge that I had and I probably didn't even know how to research any of the cinema world, so this is what we get. "Oh, I was going to watch with you guys, but I don't like that movie, so I won't." She hopped up from her chair and said, "Good night, Victor. Good night, Anika." Then she happily skipped upstairs. "Good night, Margot," Victor said to her as she left. I like the posing that I set up here. Not so many close shot photos. We've got Margot going up the stairs, we've got Anika watching her, and we've got Victor just chilling on the couch. Anika turned off the lights and sat beside Victor on the sofa. "Margot is a sweet kid. She can really talk." "Yeah," Anika said as her cheeks turned red. "Sorry about that. Me and my mom call her our little chatterbox." "It suits her." Victor smiled at her, and she could see his perfect white teeth in the darkness. Then the previews began to play on the TV. I love that I included this detail because if anyone else remembers when you would play a DVD, well, I'm sure you do. A DVD or like even a Blu-ray these days, they play all those previews at the beginning before you get to the main menu of the movie. And also, I remember in the scene, the lighting in The Sims 2 didn't actually look like this, so I remember, again, using Picnic to apply some filters here. "You had a dream about Katrina and I being vampires?" I wonder why Victor is so curious about this subject. Anika listened to his smooth velvet-like voice that had a hint of curiosity in it. "Yes, I did, and you and Kat tried to kill me. And when you almost did, you seemed very glad." She stopped to look at Victor's prefect face, and he was looking at her with concern. "What scared mine the most about the dream was that it was real, as if you and Kat were vampires and you were trying to kill me, ... He looked straight into her eyes and laughed. "What's so funny? I was almost crying when I woke up." "Sorry, if it makes you feel better, I would never try to kill you. And if I did, I probably wouldn't be glad." That's a good thing to know, I think. Trust me, it is. This is ominous. I hope that nobody meeting somebody else, especially a teenager, would want to kill someone, like, ever. Weird that he has to reassure her that he wouldn't. I don't know. Are we getting some Edward from Twilight vibes here? Ooh, okay. I'll talk about this picture in a second. They watched the movie in silence, and at some point they both fell asleep, either from boredom or exhaustion. Victor fell asleep first in an upright position. Soon after, Anika fell asleep too, her head falling on Victor's lap. They both slept so soundly they didn't stir when the front door opened. So I think this photo was another invisible box discovery I made. I think I wanted to have this like cute romantic moment where Anika fell asleep on Victor because they were so into the movie. But due to the limitations of the game, I think I could only get it so like Anika was sleeping on another surface, and I used these invisible boxes again to like make this happen. But of course she's not gonna naturally be like floating on top of him, which is why like she's cut into his sim body. So I know it looks really weird, but at the time I thought it was very sweet and romantic. And we are going to see what happens in the next slides. I'm already remembering it, and I think this is me as a young, naive teenager. I think if I were a parent walking in on this scene, I would be concerned, you know, why is my daughter clipping into this teenage boy? But anyways, we'll carry on. Victor, Anika, their eyes both opened when they hear their names being called. Anika got up and rubbed her eyes. Mom, is that you? She asked in a mumble. Yeah, it's me. You must have fallen asleep during the movie. Victor looked at her. What time is it? Anika's mother looked at her watch. It's 10:30. You'd better be getting home. Yeah, Victor said as he got up from the old sofa and walked to the door. He turned around and looked at her. See you later, Anika. Bye. Anika's mother sat beside her. I'm going to bed now. Her mother smiled. You read my mind. Good night, honey. Night. Oh, we have another time jump. Anika sat in her tiny bedroom on the small love seat. It was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. She was reading a book, or more like flipping the pages every few minutes, not reading what was on the page. She was thinking about the dream she had last night. The dream had the same idea to it. Victor and Katrina being vampires, and once again, Anika woke up in a panic. The only thing different was that Victor was playing the piano for her. Then he turned around and showed her his fangs. In the dream, Anika simple laughed and said, Nice fangs, where'd you get them? Victor's face then turned sour as he hissed. Then he came towards her, an evil grin on his face. Then she woke up. Just thinking about it sent shivers down Anika's back. Her thoughts were interrupted when there was a sharp knock on the door. Then she heard Margot holler, Anika, Victor's at the door. She put down her book and went downstairs, wondering what Victor would be doing at her house. Anika looked at him and smiled. What are you doing here? She asked him, almost in a whisper. Want to go for a walk? Sure. Anika turned to Margot. If Mom asks, I'm going on a walk with Victor. Margot nodded her head and Anika walked out the door with Victor. Let's go to the park. Okay. Victor walked quite quickly, so Anika had to walk a little faster. How are you today? Fine. How about you? I'm good. Anyways, I asked you to go for a walk because my mother, Sasha, wanted you to come over for dinner tonight. I guess Katrina can't stop talking about you. I like just the casual name drop here, as if Anika questioning them all about their lives last time she didn't get the parents' names. Anika giggled. She talks about me that much? Yeah. Anyways, if you're interested, you can be at my house tomorrow at 5. Don't worry, I'll be there. I've kind of wanted to meet your parents. Jane says they're nice people. They are. ... I don't know why Anika just called her mom Jane. They walked in silence, neither of them speaking. All they did was look around in the small park and watch the colored leaves fall off the trees. That was until one of them spoke. Victor, Anika said, breaking the peaceful silence. It's so odd. I've known you for the past month, and I consider you to be one of my best friends. But I just realized that I barely know anything about you. I know almost everything about Kat, and all I know about you is your birthday, you play the piano, and your favorite color, which is yellow. I feel the same way about you. Oh, and by the way, my favorite color is green, not yellow. See my point? Victor simply nodded his head and smiled. Very, very cute dialogue here. Maybe not the best written, but you know, cute, I suppose. I have an idea. We will ask each other random questions like, have you ever eaten frog legs? Or a normal question like, do you sing in the shower? And we will do this till we know each other really well. Sound good? Yeah. Can I start? Victor nodded again. Okay, I remember as I was putting together this PowerPoint that this is the dialogue that really made me cringe. It's just like last time when Anika was like, I want to know everything about your lives. Tell me about your history and your past, even though we are only, are they 17? I don't remember. Have you ever sweared in public? And if you did, what word was it? I did once, and it was the F word. Which is better? Vampires or cute little bunnies? Vampires, 'cause bunnies make me sneeze. What's your favorite dessert? Carrot cake. Have you ever bitten a person? Only this one time. It was a dare to bite this girl on her leg. Anika blushed. Ever wished you could just grab a person and hug them, but you were too scared to? Ooh. I do wish I put in some more dialogue tags here, but I think Victor's favorite dessert is carrot cake because I remember doing a character sheet once saying that Anika's favorite dessert was cheesecake. But very bold of Anika to ask Victor this question. I wonder if she has some other feelings motivated by it. Oh, yes. What's your weirdest hobby? Singing in the shower. Do you think of a glass being half full or half empty? Half full. The questions kept on being asked and being answered. In half an hour, Victor and Anika knew a lot about each other. And the questions were still being asked. Favorite kind of jewelry? Why do you want to know? Rings. Ever went skinny dipping? Scandalous. No. What's your favorite time of day? I'd have to say twilight. Twilight? Why twilight? I guess it's because I like waiting for the sunset to come, then watching it. And twilight is the time right before sunset. I remember back in my hometown, I would go and sit on the roof of my house, just watch the sunset. I miss being able to do that. Maybe you don't have to. Follow me. And he began to walk towards the lush forest. Anika followed him, a puzzled look on her face. What is he doing? She thought to herself. I would also question this, but you know, Anika clearly has a crush on Victor, so what you wouldn't do for a crush? Victor walked in front of Anika, guiding her through the forest. Where are we going? He turned around and smiled at her. You'll see. Seems a little bit murdery to me. Anika walked behind Victor. As they walked in the forest, which was full of evergreen trees, and the smell of pine filled Anika's nose. She heard a noise coming from behind her. It sounded like someone calling her name. She stopped and looked behind her. She stared at the trees for a few minutes until Victor called her name. Anika, hurry up or you're going to miss it. He grabbed her hand and pulled her through the rest of the forest. Ooh. This is another thing. The Sims didn't really have a side-by-side hand-holding animation. So again, I just moved them like objects and put them so their hands were clipping together. She stopped and stared at what stood in front of her. An old 2-level barn stood in front of her. It was built with stones and wood. She gasped, then turned to Victor, who stood beside her. A barn? That's what I was going to miss? An old barn? Victor rolled his eyes. Come on. And he swiftly walked into the old barn. Again, very trusting. We have walked through the woods. Anika doesn't know her way back, and now we are going into an old abandoned building. Anika ran after him, calling his name. Victor, Victor, where are you? I'm up here. Anika looked at her surroundings and saw a set of stairs. She went up and saw Victor standing in the far end of the room, looking out a large doorway. This is another slide I remember adding a nice glowy sunset-like filter to. She slowly walked up to him and lightly tapped him on the shoulder. Victor, what are you doing? Shh, was all he said as a large smile spread across his face and he pointed to the sky. Anika watched as the sky cast an orange glow on her and Victor. She looked up and watched the sun slowly fade, leaving behind a magnificent streak of color. She just stared as her mouth gaped open. Never had the sunset been so beautiful. The light caught the ocean's waves, sending beautiful streaks of light into the sky, and the sunset cast a warm glow, but the sky still stayed a pale light blue. Tears slowly fell down Anika's cheek as the breathtaking sight tugged at her heartstrings. Oh, Anika. Such a sweet scene, but I don't know if you can see this. I think Victor Sim had a thought bubble above his head for these two shots, and I tried to clip it out in my photos, but you can see this tiny little blue area here where the thought bubble still exists. Oh. Victor looked at her and laughed at what he saw. Wait, that's mean. Are you crying? Anika sniffled and wiped her tears. Yeah, it's just I've never seen anything like it. It's just wow. I thought you'd like it. I like coming up here sometimes and just watching the sunset, or just coming here to think. And no one ever comes here, so I'm free to let my mind wander. Together, The watched the sunset until the sky turned dark and the stars twinkled in the night sky. Come on, Victor said in a whisper. Let's go. Okay. In the darkness, they walked side by side and Anika shivered in the cold. And as Victor breathed, thin clouds of vapor appeared in the air. I had a fun time today. Thanks, Victor. No, thank you. If it weren't for you, I'd be stuck at home, listening to Katrina drone. I can't understand why she won't be quiet sometimes. That is quite rude. I wonder about that sometimes too. Why are you both going against your sister and your best friend? And they both laughed. Once they reached Anika's house, Victor looked at her. I'll see you later. My house tomorrow at 5, right? Yep, I'll be there. Then Victor grabbed Anika and pulled her into a hug. She hugged him back. Remember that question Anika asked him earlier? I guess, this time he's not letting go of the person he wanted to hug. Thanks again. We should do this again sometime. Yeah, we should. He let go of her and walked down the steps. Good night, Anika, he said to her as he waved, still walking. Night. She went into her house and ran up to her room. She shut the door behind her and smiled to herself and leaned back on her door. Then she sighed. Wow. There wasn't enough in this chapter. We had a little bit relationship building between Victor and Anika. I wanted to know more. I wanted to know more about the vampires. Oh, sorry. Not confirmed yet vampires. I'm excited for this dinner that they're supposed to be having, but I guess we will both have to wait until the next part of the story. I guess I'll take the time here to say that if you enjoyed this very short chapter, please give me a thumbs up to let me know you enjoyed it. And if you are interested in part 3 and the other parts, please either leave me a comment down below or subscribe for the next time I upload. But anyways, let's get on to this last page here. Okay, yes, it's done. Yes, a whole month working on this, so I hope you liked it. If not, then, well, that's too bad. I didn't really have time to make a thanks page this time, but I will put one in the next chapter. Now, I'm going to sleep and eat some of my birthday cake. Big hugs and thank yous. Also remember to sign my guest book. I love y'all. Goodbye for now. Nicole. On the sims2.com, there was no option to leave comments on the photo albums you posted. The only way you could let someone know something about anything they posted on their Sims page, whether it was a photo album or a sim, or if you had a question, was to leave them a comment in the guest book. And in these guest books, you could only ever leave one comment once. It was just a one and done situation, unless the owner of the page deleted the comment. I would remember deleting people's comments so they could leave me another comment in my guest book whenever I posted a new chapter. Yeah, so I guess for finishing this off at 1 a.m., I did a pretty good job, and I guess that's why it's a little bit short. I'm guessing what happened here was that I wrote the chapter in WordPad at first and then went on to take all the photos for it, which is what took me to 1 a.m. These videos do take me quite a while to edit, but I think they are worth the wait. Right now, I'm going to be trying to upload them once a month, probably on the last Friday of the month, if I can keep things up and keep things going. So if you liked it, please leave me a comment down below, or if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I have a question for you. On the last video, one of you very kindly asked me if I would ever consider editing this story and publishing it in some capacity, and I wrote back saying that I've actually considered rewriting this story a lot of times. As we get into it, I thought I had quite a unique idea going on here, but I think I was so fixated on the idea of vampires, unconfirmed vampires, that I was so committed to making the whole vampire thing work. But I think as the story goes along, we'll see that I kind of created my own supernatural world in a sense. So over the years, I have really thought about rewriting this story multiple times, because also just taking my writing from the past and revamping it just to kind of bring it up to date and really expand on these characters I created and the things I introduced in the story down the line. Maybe it will be another writing project for me in the future to do a retelling of this, but if you would be interested in reading it, let me know down in the comments below. Just something to consider. I think it could be fun, but I will definitely continue to tell this story until the very end. So I guess that's where I will leave it for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again very soon. Until next time, bye!